And the crazy thing about comedy, there's only one reaction. Some motherfucker can sing, and then people can start crying. I'm like, oh my god, motherfucker start crying at my show. I suck. You know what I mean?
Welcome back to another episode of Ways. My name's Muhammad.
I'm almost Osama. I almost forgot my
You
name.
almost forgot your name, but it's a good thing you found your name. At least remembered it. And Osama, what's going on today? What's going on for the Ways fans?
Honestly, I'm excited for this episode. I've been wanting to get this guy for so long. We went and saw his show for the first time with my first comedy show, and instantly I was like, I fell in love with the first time being at a comedy show, seeing the environment, and I was like, me and Mo, we spoke together. We're like, we have to get this guy on. We love his setup. We love his jokes. And Mo, let's introduce this amazing individual.
When it comes to comedy, it's one thing people talk about it, but it's another thing we actually can do it. And even when you start out, you have to learn how to control a crowd, how to do audience control, how to set up jokes, punchlines. It's a whole art, and people think that it's easy. It's not. It's not a joke as well. And when you have those who are dedicated, who actually pursue the craft, study the greats, go in night after night, year after year, you can really tell the difference between a master and a student, a teacher and a layman. And that's why we're so excited to have this guy on today, because he is a master, whether you heard his name or you've never seen him before. And if you don't know who we have on today, we have Pedro. Welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
Yo, damn, Mo, that intro, bro. Jeez. Do you owe me money or something? Like, how did you? I was like, yo, this guy, what? I'm gonna go home and sponsor a child after this. You fucking inspired me, bro. This guy has an intro. I don't even want anybody to intro me anymore. I want people to be like, yo, how do you want to be introed? Yo, check the Ways podcast. Check that shit. Yeah,
We gotta let them know,
right
man.
now,
We gotta let
making
them
it
know.
whiskey.
We gotta
Yeah.
let them know. Because at
Fuck
the same
Google
time,
Maps. It's Ways podcast.
people think this is a joke, man. I said we gotta let people to know who you are, what you do, and as far as comedy. Like, my first question to you is, how annoying is it if you're doing a set and maybe you've seen one guy in the audience and he's like, you know what, he's talking to his friends, he's kind of mimicking you or making fun of you and stuff, and then he starts to start chirping and starts saying stuff like, oh, I could get on stage as well, and I could outdo a comedian as well. Have you had that encounter with someone before who felt as if they could just do what you guys do and get on stage?
Yeah, early in my career, I would have like you would do like hostile venues and like do like open mics, and sometimes you're at these shows where they don't even know there's a there's a bar and people are just don't even know there's a comedy show. Like they'll yeah, let's go for some drinks, and all of a sudden this guy's talking about his dick for 10 minutes in front of you, and like you know what I mean. So you have to do like shitty rooms like that, and yeah, it comes with the trenches, man. You gotta do that, and but usually that type of person has an ego already, so you just have to play with that. Like I remember I did a gig in Vaughan, and Vaughan's a different, because there's that sense of entitlement, with audiences in Vaughan and the York region, because they're always like, first of all, they this show in particular had like it was in Vaughan, but you could tell people came from like Barrie or Newmarket, so but they probably just there was one guy, he probably worked his ass off that week, and he watched the show with his arms crossed, and you could tell like he's like a construction worker or something where he's the guy that cracks the jokes on the construction site or something. So he was all gassed up, and you know, um, I said something, and I don't know if it offended him or but he kind of like grunted or made a noise, and then I just asked him what was up, and then I dealt with it, and then he was kind of like being hostile first, and then I said some jokes to get him on his side and like make him laugh. I was just talking about how like I forgot what I said. This was years ago. It's probably like maybe 10, 12 years ago, but he was just I think I said something like, "Oh, my man here didn't get his dick sucked for the right." I don't know. Like yeah, I said something like so childish, but it got him on his side. Like I was just like, "Oh man, you didn't get a hand job from your wife or something. Your wife got your period today, so or like I don't know. I said something like so stupid, but um yeah, and then he but to his when I got on stage, he actually just witnessed a shitty show. So I think I was like the third comic, and like the last two guys before me sucked. So he had every right. He had every right to be cheesed. You know what I mean?
And to speak about that, like imagine obviously when you're first starting out, you have no choice. You have to be the open person to go first, and that's a tough job. Speak to us about the process, about being that person that goes on first, having to somehow break the crowd, then going second, trying to get the momentum, and then eventually you graduate to being third, and already you're like you are seasoned, you're good to go, you know how to come in and keep that energy going. And then obviously sometimes you might be the closer, and that's when you have to bring it. Everyone's coming to see you. Talk about those four different stages as far as in a comedian's life.
Well, I think on certain shows it depends on, like, I'll be doing shows where there's all headliners, so it doesn't really matter. Like, just because the guy's first doesn't mean he's the weakest, right? He might be the most high energy guy. He might be the best at crowd work, and the second guy might be just a low tempo guy, So it's all about the balance. But when it comes to like a show with a bunch of headliners, like I'll do like Kenny Robinson's Nubian show at Yuck Yucks, and everybody does a headliner. But Kenny, he will, like, even to this day, he'll still throw me early because he's like, "Yo, I need your energy." So me, when it comes to like a show, like a really good show like that, where it's just a bunch of killers, I don't mind going first because I'll go first. And here's the two things that happen when you're first. One, the host and the producer give you a little extra time because you're first, right? It's when they, like, the second or third guy, the guy's like, "Yo, you gotta hurry up, you gotta rap," right? The first guy and the first guy, so they give you an extra time, and then the best thing about it too is, like, after you're done, you're fucking done, man. I'm just rolling one up in the green room, smoking. I'm like, so sometimes, sometimes when I'm first on a show, I don't watch the rest of the show because I just end up like going to the bar after or whatever, because it's like my job's done, bro. Like, imagine showing up to your day job and like your boss is like, "Yeah, we got Ricky here. Don't worry, just mop the section and you're good." You're like, "What? Okay, fuck." You would be chilling the rest of the time.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true.
well,
I'd be so happy. I'm not gonna lie. If my boss
yeah.
told me that,
So,
my boss told me, "Hey, someone else is here. You don't have to do your job
yeah,
no more."
it's exactly what it is, right? So, and then, but to work your way up to being a headliner, it's always like that's probably the most satisfying thing when you become, obviously, when you make it to the headliner level. And to me, if I'm gonna pick a spot, like, there's so many spots to go on a show depending on the show. Like, if it's like an audition show where, like, like, so you're showcasing. So, like, in this industry, we have this thing called showcases where, like, all the major festivals and production companies and like Bell Canada, CBC, they'll come on a special night at like Yuck Yucks or a comedy bar, and like each comic's doing like seven of their best to get on TV. Like, that's the type of show where I don't want to go first. I'd rather go like second, third, because there's no headliner on those shows, right? So you got to place yourself
Hmm.
nice. But if it's a show where, like I did the Kevin Hart LOL taping and Just for Laughs, and I think I was first. They put me up first because of my energy and whatever. Love that. I did the first taping. I was the first guy. I was done. Everybody was having a good time. Enjoying the rest of the show. I was in the back watching the rest of the show, drinking, smoking. Just fucking relaxing. And then when it's like, obviously at a club, you wanna close it out. So it all depends on the show and where you want to be. But like, to this day, if there's a show with a bunch of headliners, I'll still get asked to go first just based on my energy. You know.
I have a question for you. I guess for like just adding on to your point. How have you evolved as a comedian over the years, both in terms of your material and performance? You obviously said you've been doing this for like a long time now. So how do you think you've evolved over the years in terms of material, performance, and how much you've grown?
Oh man, I've been doing this 16 years. 16 years, man. You know, I've been doing it full time for the past maybe 10, 10 years, yeah, 10, maybe 12 years, I think. Um, and it's hard because with material, especially when you become on that full-time level, you don't have, like, I remember when I was working my regular job. I'll tell you, like, my last real job, um was Future Shop. So you can tell how long ago that was. Motherfucking Future Shop don't fucking exist no more. Right?
Yeah.
So that was like my last like real job where I had to like report and wake up early and wear a name tag, and and it was whatever. But what I loved about that was because I was living a regular life, material came faster, you know? I'm like, oh, what's up with people who are, talk like this,
Hmm.
or what's up with your boss? Like, and I was relating to audiences a lot easier. But then when you come full time, it's like no one can relate to you waking up at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday and doing doing your laundry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no way, no, right? Because so like in life, you transition, so your comedy has to transition. So based on the question you said, how did my comedy evolve? It evolved when my life kind of when I wrote more about my life. Like when you start off as a comedian, you're just trying to be funny, so you'll do any kind of joke, like let me talk about my dick for 10 minutes, and then you can't do that anymore, right? There's so much dick jokes you can do, and then I start talking about regular shit, and I remember Kevin Hart said it best, man. A comedian is better when he has problems, when he has actually shit to complain about. So my shit just evolved in a way where like I found a way to just be funny without trying, just talking, because a real comedian is just funny. You know what I mean? And then there's other comedians who try to be funny and they write funny, but they can't turn anything funny. So I feel like I could just find something to complain about and turn it funny. And then once I realized I had that gift, it was like Steph Curry with the turnaround threes, right? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can shoot this three now. Okay, now I don't even have to look at it. I can just throw it up and turn around. So it just became, yeah, it became like muscle
That's a good
memory.
analogy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just comedy's it's like a muscle memory. You just got to keep doing it, and then you'll get better, right? It's not like a
Yeah, yeah.
natural, like, you know what I mean?
So I was gonna say, yeah, 100%. Honestly, just to add on to your point, yeah, like I think like yeah, you said it best. Like comedy, I think a lot of people in the beginning they try to be as funny as they possibly can. But yeah, to your point, I realized like with comedians, you could tell how seasoned someone else based off how comfortable they are on stage. Like they're like moving and they're transitioning. They're able to like go off
Yeah,
people's reactions. Is what I find.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I think yeah, like you'll never see a 12-year-old prodigy stand-up comedian on YouTube. You never see that shit because it's not. You got to work at it, and the comedy is like more like an old man's game. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Right? Like what kind of jokes can this guy tell at 12 years old?
Obviously.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Exactly. Can you talk about a specific moment in your life that made you realize the power of comedy?
Yeah, actually, fuck. This was a long time ago. I actually forgot about this story. So I was doing Yuck Yucks downtown Toronto, and my buddy, my boy Travis, big Jamaican dude. Um, we used to work at a hospital together. All right, and he's like, "Yo, I'm coming to your show," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And he's like, "I'm bringing." I forgot her name, and she worked with us too at the hospital, and he brought her, and she came to my show, and then after the show she goes, "Oh, I never knew," because me and the homie worked in the kitchen, right? So we had hairnets on and stuff. She's like, "Oh, I never knew you had this in you," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks." She's like, "I just have to tell you that my dad passed away recently, and for like those 5 minutes that or whatever 7 minutes that you were on stage, I totally forgot he was gone." And I'm like, "Oh shit, you put a lot of pressure on me," but like that's when I realized I'm like, "Oh fuck, this is not just for me anymore." This is not just for my own personal satisfaction, right? Like people are turning to they're coming out to actually fucking either have a good time or escape something. So it's crazy, yeah. And that was a moment I was just like, fuck, I have a duty now. With great power comes great responsibility. You know?
Of course. And no, it's true. Like that's amazing how within you just doing that set, you've been working with this whole time, but you didn't know, and you just took someone's
Yeah,
pain away, you know? And
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. Not everyone could just do that, obviously, right? Because most people might be rude
yeah,
to you. They might be, I don't know, terrible. They might gossip about you, say some things. But for you to take people's pain away, and the fact that you do that every single night, it's incredible.
yeah.
It's very rare, you know? My question to you is
Thanks.
like, talk to us about your upbringing, man. How you grew up, where you grew up, and just like your family life and how that pretty much shaped you for the rest of your life.
Oh man, I grew up immigrant household. So, Filipino household. I grew up North York side, um, and like off of Bathurst, like Finch area, you know, Wilson, close to Yorkdale, and then my mom bought a house on Steele side. So like I went from city to burbs area. So I can relate with my hood friends, and then I know some white songs that we can play at the cottage. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, that was my upbringing. I just wanted to like, cause with me, um, I'll be honest with you. So my dad, um, lost his job after 9/11, right? So then, that after he lost his job, because he was working in the airplane in an aerial, like he worked at McDonnell Douglas in the airplane industry, right? So because of no one wanted to fly no more, motherfuckers lost their job. He lost his job. That ended up tearing up my parents' marriage and shit like that. And then all I remember is my dad in like his weakest, most vulnerable. And when you see your dad vulnerable, it's crazy, right? So he said something like, "I gave this company almost 30 years, and they let me go like that." And I was like, "Fuck!" And in my head, I was like, "Now that triggered where I was like, I'm never working for nobody. I'm working for myself, bro. Imagine, you know what I mean? Slaving away, and then they just let you go because motherfuckers crashed some planes in the middle. So that was it. Like that was kind of like the trigger where I'm like, oh, okay, I want to do something where I could be my own boss. So I started, I started doing everything, man. Acting, rapping, comedy. I always wanted to be a comedian. I just didn't know the route, and then I ended up taking Humber comedy program, and yeah, the rest is history.
Now, as far as I really want to know, because when it comes to comedy, one era that's like really forgotten about, overlooked, is the Def
Yeah.
Comedy Jam era, and there's
Oh, best.
a lot of legendary comedians that came out of it. And one beautiful thing
Yeah.
about Def Comedy Jam was the audience and also the crowd work from the comedians as well. Like
Oh
someone
yeah.
like Joe Torre used to go in on the audience. Obviously Martin Lawrence, like who bigger than Martin? So I want to know, did you
That's
ever
great.
watch comedy like Def Comedy Jam? If it was, like how was that influential on your whole like perspective when it came to doing shows?
You know what, Mo? I don't know how old are you, but dropping that Joe Torre, I'm like, this what is what? But no, Def Comedy Jam. I'll be honest. When I first like Martin Lawrence was my hero, dude. I loved the show Martin, and I loved watching him host Def Comedy Jam. And uh, like to me though, it was crazy because I never really watched um comedy specials. I never watched like Eddie Murphy's Delirious or all of until after I became a comedian. I think the first ever comedy special I watched was Chris Rock, Bigger and Blacker, and then Dave Chappelle's Killing Them Softly. And then those were the ones where I was just like, these are fucking hilarious. And then like to impress girls, I kind of like reiterate their jokes and shit like that, you know. And then so that's where I got my timing from, just like saying these guys' jokes out loud to people. And yeah, like I'm only inspired. It's weird because I'm inspired by black comedy. Like there's no all my favorite comedians are black. Like, and who are the most famous comedians? Let's be honest. It's Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, fucking Cat Williams. Bill Burr's probably the most famous white dude, you
Yeah,
know, in
married to a
terms of
black
like
woman.
pop culture.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
true.
and he's married to a black girl, exactly. So I mean, it's yeah, like that whole shit molded me. Like Def Comedy Jam and black comedy. Like I used to watch Comic View, BT Comic View, fucking Gary Owens too. Remember when
Yeah, Gary
the white
Owens,
dude Gary Owens,
amazing,
so funny, man. Yeah, Earthquake,
a
and
legend. Yeah,
just yeah, and then that shit, because BET would come out at night, right? So you would like fill that up, and you're like, oh shit. And I remember watching that, and those were like the comedies that I would watch. And but what made me like really, really want to be a comedian was do you remember at the end of like Fresh Prince they'll show the bloopers and stuff?
Oh yeah, of course, classic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
just like, oh, look at this job. Look what they do. I want this job. Even when they fuck up, it's great.
It's classic,
Yeah.
man.
Mhm.
That's a classic show
Classic.
too.
And the cool thing is, like, it's amazing how you said you're influenced by black comedians and stuff, because I was watching Andrew Schultz, and he did like a recent like take, and he's like, well, when it comes to comedians, like, you guys might see it one, because the whole thing is someone was criticizing Chris Rock because she said that
Yeah,
he panders to white audience, which I totally disagree with,
yeah,
right? But Andrew
yeah,
Schultz was saying, like, I don't think she understands when it comes to comedians, especially when we're around each other, we're
yeah.
comedians first, then race second. So we're able to talk about anything, whatever the subject is,
Mm-hmm.
how cruel, how like wild it is to each other, because it's like a special language that we relate to. All the race
Yeah.
and age and sex and those other variables, we put that second. And so that's why people might have a weird perception or don't understand how comedians act. So talk to us about that. Like, how our comedians are with each other in the green room. Like, is it another kind of language? Obviously, regular people can't be inside because they'll be offended by everything you guys say. Like, what is the ins and out when it
It
comes to comedians interacting with each other?
it's weird, bro, because also we're on group chats too, right? So when comedians like we just roast the shit out of each other, and it's crazy because my interactions with my friends, like if I want to like say good job to my friend or something, like you know, um, like the other day, my boy just texted me, this dope comedian out in New York, and he said something like, I forgot. Like there's person that I was nominated for a Juno last year, and he would always be like, like, hey, what's up with this? So the Junos are letting 4'11" guys now, and like that's how he would like congratulate me. You know what I mean? Like he would to say some shit, and that's exactly how I would like, my homie got um a festival recently, and I'm just like, oh, it's glad to see that you have 10 minutes for TV. Like, you know what I mean? But that's our way of just be like, hey, bro, you got it. And yeah, so people don't even understand. And I'll do that to like my regular family and friends, and they will just get really pissed off. They're like, whoa, bro, no, hello. I'm like, sorry, this is the way I usually interact with my friends. Like my cousin, my older cousin, she turned 50. Yeah, she turned fucking 50. So my message was literally like 10 minutes ago. I go, hey, happy 50. I hope you have a smooth transition into menopause. Like, you know what I mean?
Damn,
Uh,
man.
and then she started laughing. She's like, yo, fuck you, man. And I'm like, sorry, I forget that you're just a teacher and you don't really talk like this. You don't really get but she gets me though. She understands. But like that's exactly, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly how. And like in the green room banter is, I remember walking in and there was all these heavy hitters, like Jay Martin, Tricks, John Paul, all these dope ass guys, and they were just roasting each other in the green room. And I'm this dude, I got some hood friends and blah blah blah, and I finished my show, and I don't know, they said something like they sent a shot at me, and I got all pissed off, and then another comic pulled me aside, like another OG. He's not in the game no more, but he's like, yo, man, that's our way of saying you belong in the crew. Like we respect you. You're funny, so we're gonna roast you. He's like, see that motherfucker right there? And he points to the other guy who bombed. He's like, no one's talking to him. No one's roasting him because he already got fucking torched. We don't need to say shit to him. And I'm like, oh,
Damn.
true. So he kind of like broke down and was like, yo, when you're getting
Yeah.
roasted, that means you part of the clique. And I'm like, oh, bet, okay. So yeah, so it's like a different society
Yeah,
that you got.
honestly, facts. I always say to my
Yeah.
friends, like, because we always roast each other like, amongst our friend groups, and I say if you get roasted, that means you get loved. If no one says something about you, just know they don't like you.
Yeah, it's like because two things: they don't like you, and they know that you're a pussy, and you can't take it. right? So it's just like, or you're not
That
smart enough to
I'm
come
not
with
gonna
a
lie. That
comeback.
is one of yeah. That is one
Yeah.
of our friends, Mo. That is one of our friends. Like if he gets roasted, he makes a big deal out of it. And he's gonna hear this, and he's gonna be like, he's gonna get mad at me for saying, I don't care, bro. And
No,
then
there's
he and then
always
he
one
takes it
friend in the
personal. I'm
group.
like, man, relax. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. And it's like
I
you're
actually
saying
have another
things that are
question
not
for
even
you because
true.
like
It's
you
like,
got you.
bro, your mom's
Yeah,
not even
sorry.
fat. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. But yeah.
Oh, don't kill me, bro. Yeah, honestly, my question was, as a comedian, how do you handle the pressure of being a comedian and making people laugh every time you perform? Does that cross your mind? It's like, oh, I gotta make them laugh, or you're just like natural with it.
Oh man, yeah. I've been doing it for so long. Like, you know what? The pandemic really resetted me because I was doing it as a job, and like I was like, there was shit where like I was tired, and sometimes you're not in the mood to be funny, and I'm like, oh, I gotta make these fucking people laugh. Like I took it for granted. I'm not gonna lie. And then when the pandemic was over and I started getting back on stage, there was times where I would stop and be like, ah, this is great. You know what I mean? Like, so now like the pandemic resetted my gratitude towards the craft, and I totally forget that like I'm one of the few people who get to do what I love, and like I got kids, like I got fucking four kids, and I'm feeding them all with this craft, and you know what I mean. So it's like it's weird. I'm like I'm just blessed, right? So, but it's
Yeah,
exactly that. You're a clown. You know what I mean? You got to no matter your mood, you have. And the crazy thing about comedy, there's only one reaction. You know what I mean? Like someone like some motherfucker could sing, and then people could start crying. And be like, oh my god, motherfucker start crying at my show. I suck. You know what I mean? Or like, or like some guy will do a magic trick and they're like, oh, you know what I mean? They'll be surprised. I'm like, oh, they'll hold their breath. Like, okay, that's good. But like, if people are quiet during my show, that means I suck. Like, comedy's the only thing where you get your response is one reaction, and if you don't get that reaction, you're shit.
yeah.
You know? So yeah. So sometimes I'll be like, oh, I gotta make these people laugh.
That's honestly like, I think yeah, that's very true. And I think it's also as a comedian, it's one of the hardest things to do because like your job is to like put yourself out there and like
Yeah.
obviously you might have hecklers and people talk trash to you, but like it's one of the hardest things. That's why like a lot of people I guess are scared of public speaking. But for you, did you
Yeah.
ever have a transition where you were like you were scared of public speaking, or was it natural to like go in front of people, speak, and tell your jokes? Did like rejection bother you earlier in your career?
No, the crazy thing about me though was I was a younger brother, and my older brother got a lot of attention too, so we were always fighting for it. So when I got the attention, when my mom made me like, oh, do this for your cousins and your titas and and I was like, okay, and I would love it,
Filipinos.
yeah, you know what I mean? I'd love it, and yeah, so I didn't really like, you know, it wasn't like I was never scared of public speaking. I was never scared of like getting up on being the center of attention or whatever. That didn't really bother me. It was more like I would get more nervous if I didn't know if the jokes would work. Like
Yeah.
I still do that now when I have new shit to drop. So it's like one of those things where like um I'm not sure. So because I'm not sure, that's what gets me scared. But it's never about the speaking, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. You know?
At this
Yeah,
point, since
yeah,
it's been 16 years in your career, like if you're on stage and you're about to perform and you know that there are big comedians in the audience or in the back, do you make it your mission just to have a good set, do the regular routine, or you want to smash that set to let the comedian know, like, hey, if you don't know who I am, I'm Keith Pedro and I'm on the rise, or obviously you want to establish a form of relationship. Like, does it intimidate you or other comedians when a big comedian might come through and do a set, or are you like super anxious, excited, like, yo, let me show what I got?
Oh no, I'm competitive as fuck, bro. Best believe, dog. And the crazy thing with me is like I'm competitive to a point where like, and this is the game, right? Sometimes I'm on a show where I'm not the headliner, and the headliner I think is not that funny. So I'm like, I'm gonna bury this fucking fool. I'm gonna make people come up to me after the show and be like, "Oh, you should have closed it," like right in front of them. Oh, you know what I mean? So, but when there's like a new guy that I want to press, or like, "Oh, the producer of Bell Media is here in the audience," but I'm going guns blazing. There's times where I'll be like, "All right, here's my set. I like this one. I like this one. Oh, so and so is here. Yeah, fuck that. Let's give them the bangers, bro. You know, pull out the haymakers on this one.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes sense because it's like literally life changing. Obviously, if that person rocks with you, want to do business with you and stuff, right? So you kind of look
yeah.
forward towards those moments, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's even what I realized when I first saw, like when I first saw you that day at Dave's concert. Because I remember honestly, uh, that's that because I said it like off camera, like it was my first time at a comedy show. But I remember I had no idea you were coming on. 'Cause I remember I heard the host saying I forget the person's name that came before you, but I thought after her it was
Yeah,
gonna be Dave. So then you came with the way you came in. I remember said I told this to Mo. I'm like your energy, like I felt it. Like you came in, yo, what's up, guys? How are you? Like you're talking to everybody. You went with your jokes. I feel
yeah,
like the relationship with the audience and the community is really important. So my question
yeah.
to you is, what do you want your audience to take out of your performance after the end of the show?
Um, well, first, I want them to like do what that girl said and just forget their problems. I just want to make people feel good. I want them to walking away feeling good about their life. Mentally healthy, feeling great. Just and to me, I'm like, I don't want people to think that I'm a one trick pony. So I don't know if you remember that show, but like I did a little crowd work, I did a little storytelling, I did a little one hit wonders, like one clip, pat, pat, pat. So I was kind of like, I want people to be like,
Mhm.
oh, that Filipino guy, man, oh man, that guy was funny. He did everything, you know? So it wasn't like, I don't want to be this dude who just does like certain types of jokes. Like I want a different experience. And to me, like
Yeah.
comedy is subjective, right? So you guys might like the high energy stuff, and then the people beside you might like storytelling, and the other people like fucking misdirection jokes where it comes out of nowhere, like or shock that factor where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's fucking like like Schultz type of shit. So I'll do a little bit of all that, so it kind of hits everybody in the audience. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does cancel culture scare you, or does it make you want to change your jokes? Does it make
Upon
you want to
cancel
go even
culture.
harder? Like, because comedians, it's either one comedian feels as if it doesn't exist, or someone might feel as if they have to kind of change their material to depend on the audience, or some people will just like change their whole set or style or haircut or whatever just to make sure they don't even get thrown in some blog or online. So what do you think about cancel culture, and why do you think the media purposely goes after comedians the most when it comes to that?
It's crazy because to me, like, I think it's so dumb. Comedy is because we're just speaking, right? We're not. If you really think about what like what people are getting mad at, then rap music should have been canceled a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like,
That's true.
there's
That's true.
there's a lot of things that if I said it as a rapper, all good. You know what I mean? But um, I think like see to me like there's things that I'll say and I'll know there's people like me that talk like that feel this way. So as long as I know that the opinion is strong enough that it has other people's side, like yeah, like and I'm not doing jokes like if I'll do a joke that I think might get canceled. And first of all, I'm a Canadian entertainer. You can't cancel someone that's you know what I mean? Like
Of course, of
we're,
course.
we're not on that much. You know what I'm saying? So uh, it it's it's like how could I say this? Like I'm not doing it just to like I'm like oh man let me just drop the F word. I'm not talking about fuck. I'm like let me drop the F word today or let me say this or let me throw unnecessary N bombs for no reason. Like I do things with a formula. Like I have this joke right now that I say that like like sometimes people are with it and other times people are not with it. And I've gotten DMs from people like you should not do that joke, and I've got other people it's like, bro, you should keep doing that joke. So I have this joke about you remember that cop that got shot recently in Toronto? There was a guy that was a cop on duty. He got murdered, and you remember that? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I think
yeah, a
I
couple
see a
months
couple.
ago,
Yeah.
and how he was followed and I talk about how like I don't understand why we gave this guy a ceremony when he was just a bad cop. Like, how do you not understand that you were followed, bro? Like, this is your job. You're supposed to serve and protect, and you got clapped. at work, bro, with your vest on. Even I know when I'm being followed at Walmart. Like, bro, why? And we gave this guy a fucking parade. We shut down the street for this guy. Like, he didn't do his job. And then people are like, oh, that's someone's life. But it's crazy. It's mostly the ethnic people. When I do the show, but the ethnic people are like, yeah, man, fuck that guy. Like, they go, that's it. But then when I'm like in white people, Burlington, people are like, no, don't do that. That's not, nope. So it's like half, but you can tell when people love it, they love it. So to me, I'm just like, people still agree with me. There's a side of people that agree with me. So it's not like I'm just doing shit to get canceled, to push the envelope, to just be an asshole. It's like, no, like, that's just my personal opinion. If motherfucker gets shot on the job, I personally don't think, you know, so, but that's it. But the thing with comedy, it's art, right?
Yeah.
So these are just my flaws. These are just my, the way I feel about certain things, or how I deal with my emotions, right? So,
I think it's important that you said that. I think it's important that you said that because it wasn't until you said like these are my flaws, these are my emotions. But when you're a comedian and on stage, people are expecting to say perfection because you're on stage.
yeah,
People are sitting down, listening to you speak about what's going on in society. So they're
Yeah.
expecting you to have this perfect concept, this perfect theories, this perfect
yeah,
interaction, this perfect like dance and trance about what's going on. So if you say something as such about the cop getting killed on a job, it's wrong, it's immoral, and all these things. But like you said, it's your flaws. Like I'm not saying
yeah,
it's right. It's just my interpretation. And obviously, like a comedian like
yeah,
George Carlin, what I might say at 26 might be different when I'm at 75. So you have to
yeah,
give me space to grow, right? I think it's very perfect that you
exactly.
said that because if not, people just expect perfection
But
from a comedian.
I also think comedy, as like Keith said, it's subjective. So like if you like someone's comedy, you just go with it. You f with it.
Yeah,
But if you don't like it, just don't go next time. Like I feel like a lot of people like sometimes like I'll go through like my favorite comedians and I read the comments and like they're talking trash. I'm like, don't you know like it's helping the comedian like their views and it's like you're talking trash. Yeah, like there's like millions of comments for supporting this person, yet you're the only one talking trash. You're making it's like there's no reason to do
yeah,
that. Like for me, at the end of the day, like when I hear a joke about like I'm Arab, I'm Middle Eastern, so when I hear people making fun of Middle Easterns, I legit laugh because I know like even like what they're gonna say, and I'm gonna laugh about it because I'm
yeah,
just open minded like that. Like someone can make a joke about like I'm also Palestinian. Someone can be like, "Oh, Palestine has no country." I'm gonna laugh. Like at the end of the day, it's like I think comedy also is a way of
yes,
spreading news, like getting closer to the audience. And I think a lot of people take it too seriously. I'm like, your job is not to take it seriously. You're not a
yeah. And
professor at U of
I'm not,
T.
yeah, I'm not a
You're just
politician. I'm not
here.
fighting for votes. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, everybody's like, but I'm just, yeah, it's exactly that. You're right.
Yeah, honestly, people who come to comedy clubs just to crap on people. I'm like, ah, man, you're cheesing me. Like you're pissing me off.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like I have a very busy social media, so like there's times where people write paragraphs in the comic. I had this one video that's gone viral about like not buying my daughter a cell phone and just buying her cell phone chargers. And obviously that's a joke. Obviously I bought my daughter a cell phone. I'm not gonna fucking go out of my way and buy cell phone chargers, just but not a phone. You know what I mean? Like, and people on the comments were like, "No, you should really buy your daughter a phone." It's like, dumbass. Of course I did. What? Like, why would you think I wouldn't? Like, this is just a joke, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's so dumb. Like, I don't know. People just don't get it. Like, and sometimes people are like, "Oh, I don't like this guy. He's too aggressive." And it's like, all right, then keep fucking scrolling, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not on your page. You
So
commented on
true.
mine. So if you don't like it, no one's asking you to follow me, or no one's asking you to, you know, stay with my shit, support my shit. Like, I had this one joke where I was talking about Pop Smoke, how he died, right? And I was just like, well, his name was Pop Smoke. You know, he was about that life. You know what I mean? Like, right? You gonna call like I forgot the shit that I said. I'm like, um, it's like saying like, oh, it's like saying a guy's name is no license, and you're surprised that he died in a car accident. Like, yeah, motherfucker got no license, right? It's like that. And then this one guy wrote it on my thing. He's like, "Yo, man, I fucked with you heavy. I thought you were funny, but after watching this, I'm not a fan no more." And then I replied, I'm like, "Well, if you're too sensitive and this hurts your feelings, I don't want you as a fan, bro. Keep it moving. You know what I mean? So it's exactly that. It's like if you don't want to fuck with my shit, I don't want people who are like that's not the cater audience I want. I don't right. So it just helps me weed out who the fuck I want on my shows.
Yeah, of course, because like you said, like there's a certain kind of comedy for everyone, right? So whether you're into
Yeah.
clean comedy, like a person like Kev on stage, or into like kind of person who talks about like family and society, like Tony Baker, or like you said, shock value,
Yeah.
like Andrew Schultz. It's a type of lane for everyone, right? So if people are coming on your platform and trying to gatekeep you or trying to limit what you should say and stuff, obviously it's always going to be a problem. But on the flip side, though, when do you ever want people to take you serious? Because, like you said, if you're a comedian and you're trying to you're saying something, and obviously us as the audience, we have to take in what you're saying and try to interpret it, and hopefully get your whole perspective. But on the flip side of
Uh-huh.
that, like outside of comedy, when do you
Yeah.
want people to take you serious, or do people not take you serious at all because you're a comedian? So whether you're serious about something or you want to get your point across, you might laugh in your face or whatever. Like, when do you ever want people to
Like, are you
take you
talking
serious as
about
a
like you
person?
want like in on stage
No,
or
outside of
no?
stage,
Like just
off stage.
yeah. Well, it's a gift and a curse because I might say something that and I might say something like rude or whatever, and people are like, oh, but he's a comedian, so he might not mean that, right? So I just think it's funny because no one ever like takes me takes me seriously, all right? But I can my demeanor switches quick, like you'll know when I'm serious, So I just have that I also have like the immigrant, like when your parents gave you that look,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
my mom blessed me
The
with that
immigrant
look,
look.
like yo, and then like okay, no, he's serious right now, no, he's not fucking around, but I yeah, no, it's yeah, it's kind of like you'll tell by my tone when I'm trying to be serious, but at the same time, it's like I don't want anybody to take me seriously because life is not even that serious, you know.
no, it's true. And at the same time, it's just like you
Yeah,
have a wife, you have 4 kids, you have a family. So it doesn't make any sense how people can never take you serious or think like you're
Yeah,
always gonna be a joke outside of comedy, obviously, right? Because like you said,
yeah,
the best comedians have problems, and you have a life outside of comedy, right? So it doesn't make
yeah,
any sense how people could just take that for granted and think as if all you do is sit in the corner and just like laugh for 24 hours in a day.
yeah. No, yeah,
I think sometimes too is like watching comedians. You can also be like you can also relate to them because as you said, like sometimes you talk about your problems on stage and you try to make people laugh. But sometimes I find like you can relate to someone like though you're like from a different ethnicity or like different culture,
yeah,
but you'll still find one way to connect with someone. Like no way, my mom does that too,
yeah,
or my dad does that too. Like oh my boys do this, like I do this. Like I think when you go to a comedy, like when you go to watching someone perform, the one thing I want to do is have a good laugh. So I'm in my I'm going in.
yeah.
I remember that day. I don't know why I was nervous. I'm like, yo, I don't want to get picked on. I was
Oh
like,
yeah, same,
I
same,
was like
same, same,
stressing. I was
same,
like, I was trying to hide.
same.
I was like, nah. I was like, yo,
What?
today is not the day to get picked on.
So what? Can I ask you a question? What brought you to Dave's show? Like you guys knew Dave personally, or you were fans of his work and stuff like that?
Honestly, yeah, honestly, how what it was, I watched his show Rami like about a year ago,
Yeah,
and at that point, because we started this podcast like time ago, but we started taking it seriously about 2020. So then I'm like, I really want because him Dave on his show is really funny. So I'm like, I really can't get Mo Amer or Rami. I'm like, let me get Dave. I'm like, Dave is funny and like he's one of my favorite characters personally on the show. So let me get him.
yeah,
I got him. I showed Mo. Mo loved his work. And then after the podcast, he started telling us, he's like, I love your questions. You guys were amazing. Because a lot of people, like, they feel like when they're on their podcast, they don't have to act different. Like, they could just be
yeah.
themselves. Like, we don't, like, have to, we don't, like, I don't know, fake the energy.
Hmm.
So, I think Mo, was it in October? He said he had
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. It
show
was around that time.
in December, right?
Hmm.
And then Mo was like, "Yo, we should go to his show." And that was, and in my head, I was kind of nervous. I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, I don't want to get picked on right now. I was like, no. So then, December comes along, and like we end up going. And but for the longest time, we were kind of unsure because he didn't get back to us. We were like, because he said, "Oh, I'll compensate you guys.
Yeah.
Just come through, have a good time."
Hmm.
But yeah, I could say he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Like he only spoke to us for half an hour that day, and obviously he was busy, so we didn't really bug him as much. but he gave us a lot of advice. But he was like one of like I don't. We met him once. We spoke to him a couple of times, but he's been nice to me and Mo ever since like we met him.
Yeah, Dave's a good guy. Yeah, because I'm always wondering why, how, like when people tell me like, oh, it's my first show, I'm always like, okay, what brought you out? You know what I mean? What? And that's good to know. No, it's great. Yeah, I honestly, Rami's a really great show.
What's funny is the fact that like you were sitting at the bar, and me and Osama were literally talking to ourselves for like 20 minutes on how to approach you.
Debating for an hour to come talk to you. We were debating for an hour
Yeah,
on how to talk. It's like, man, he's with his wife. We're not trying to bother him because in our head we're asking ourselves like, man, if I was with my girl, I don't want to be bothered. It's not until you turn around, Mo's like, he's turning around. Should we go? I'm like, Mo, let's just go.
no, it's all good, bro.
But we were
It's all
debating for a good hour to come approach you.
good. No, it's all good, dude.
We were so scared. We're like, we're not trying to annoy him.
No, it's cool
Yeah,
because my
but
girl was like, I think those guys want
we glad we did
my.
because like me and Mo love this guy.
Yeah, no, it's great because I think my girl was like, I think those guys
Oh
want to
really?
talk
You
to
didn't
you.
notice?
Yeah, I think those guys want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then whatever, it was all good. But like, yeah, man, you know what? Like me and Dave are homies, and like we have the same type of like, you know, like upbringing. So we know that everything's a blessing. So like, people. A lot of people like, especially when they slide in my DMs and they're like, yo, man, blah blah blah, and I'll respond, and people are like, I can't believe you responded. Like, or I can't believe, and I'm still like, I'm one of those people where like, nah, man, if it's positive vibes and love, like I'm not gonna just disregard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm very easy.
yeah. To be quite honest with you, like Mo, you can allude to this, like because the first time we wanted to go to a comedy show was in Montreal, but that never happened. We wanted to go see I think Dave Chappelle. He was performing in Montreal, but we're like that never happened.
Hmm.
So when this opportunity came up, I'm like, it's kind of better to see like I just want to like see how comedy happens at a bar, or even so in my head we went and the only performance I really connected with was yours. Like again, because I in my head I'm like you said all the jokes that I listened to because I'm big fans of Chris Rock,
Yeah,
Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle. All my favorite comedians are black comedians or immigrant
yeah.
comedians by that fact. So when I listened to you, there's not a single time where I was not laughing.
Oh,
The
thanks,
guy
man.
beside me, he was like white. He was like he thought I was crazy. Because me and Mo the whole time we were quiet. Maybe because we never understood the jokes, but you came along, me and Mo, let's just be honest. How bad were we
No, the
laughing?
point is like when you came on stage, you seized the moment. Like you just took the energy out the room. And I looked at Osama. I'm like, no, he's seasoned. Like you just tell this guy's seasoned. Like he's not letting anything go to waste. And like you said, jack of all trades. Like you talked about your wife, talked about your 2 teenage kids, also your mom giving you the name, like Keith. Like it was so fantastic. I'm like, no, this is
Oh,
a
thanks,
comedian.
man.
This is a comedian. So it's just like, and I'm like, bro, if he's before the headliner, this guy must be a headliner. And because you could just tell, like you said, and you said yourself, 16 years on stage, you just knew, like you put in the work night
Yeah,
after night. And if no one
yeah,
knows who you are, and obviously a lot of people know who you are, we have to interview you because your story has to be incredible because you don't just go from nothing to something
yeah,
overnight. There's literally a story to it,
yeah,
right? So it's for us to know that
yeah.
story as to what made you who you are. And that's why we're so happy that you came on.
No, thanks for having me, man. And it was crazy because Osama, when he was hitting me back and forth, um I got really sick after New Year's because I was smoking a lot of fucking infused joints, and I was headlining Niagara Falls, and I was
Yeah.
with the next comedian, and we were like, we had the hotel balcony. It was like just raining on us, but we had like no jacket on. We're just smoking. We're like, we got drunk, and then I woke up, my throat was done, and I had like I felt like I was getting strep throat, and I got sick, and then like the crazy thing is, I canceled 3 podcasts that week. So this
Wow.
week I have a
Oh
podcast
really?
on Wednesday and another one on Thursday. So like this week was podcast recovery week from from the time we're supposed to meet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Funny.
man. Yeah. So it was crazy. Like yeah, a lot of people are
That's
trying to
jokes.
I'm trying to do podcasts with, but yeah, man. No, thank you. Like I appreciate you guys having me, man. Like this yeah, man. When I checked out the
It's our
podcast.
yeah, man.
You guys had like some good like yeah, Dave, Nima, good peoples out there. So
No, it's all about not
Yeah,
even
we're
giving
trying to grow.
back.
Honestly, we're trying to
It's
grow.
not about only giving back. It's about hearing the stories so the audience can know about the life that you guys live. So they'll just take it as a facade or some kind of joke or it's just so simple
hmm
or just like easy to do. Because it's not. It's not easy to do, bro. Like, who can I think
Yeah.
of?
No, it's not.
Man, it's a famous comedian. He used to do bits with Dean Martin back in the '60s. What was his name? Skinny guy. He used to wear
I
suits.
forgot.
He was the original Nutty Professor. What's his name? Man, hold on.
Original Nutty.
Let
Go
me,
on Google
Why not?
and search it.
yeah, let me search it up.
I just want to say something quickly while you search this. Because you asked earlier, how does Mo know certain stuff? Mo's 28 years old, but out of all my friends that I know, he's the most cultured with music. Like, if you ask him his favorite artists or anything, it's not no one modern.
No, that's good, and
This
I
guy is
think
comedy, music.
I'm
I'll
an
give
old
it to
head.
him.
I'm an old head.
no,
Man.
that's great, man.
Yeah, you're 82 years old, buddy.
I think that is. I think uh that's great though, and I think the dynamic between you two is really funny because you could tell that Mo is like the old head and he likes classic stuff, and Osama's just like still still with you know that young hip
Um,
shit. So it
I
makes a
roast
good
him all the
blend.
time. Like, yeah, honestly, also because I've known him for like 20 plus years. So I guess it also helps, like, over our chemistry, go back and forth. But
Nice.
yeah, to your point, like, yeah, because he's the old. Everybody calls him the old head, and then like, I'm just like in between. Like, they call me the dad of the group. Like, they call him the grandpa. They call me the dad because like we all like to sleep early. Like we have our, like, they call us, like, we have our Sunday
Nah, man, not
specials.
going too far,
I'm like,
man.
man,
You're
buzz
telling the
off.
guy
I like
about.
to sleep at 9
You're
o'clock.
telling another comedian about our
Sorry.
sleeping schedule, bro. What the heck? Not sure if you use as more material,
No,
man.
no, dude,
Look,
I'm the same way, bro.
I'm trying to be in a comedian's roast.
Yeah, so I was on this podcast, and these guys had like a Bird
Are
and
you
Ernie
really?
kind of vibe to him. Like, no, I'm not trying to be used some.
No, not even. I think that's funny, and like,
I
but
am.
bro, on a real though, like I have, I call it an early night, man. I'm a big, maybe because I have a family or whatever, but like, yeah, I'm the same way, man. My social media runs out sometimes, and like, I don't like, you know what I mean? I love just chilling out, so there's nothing wrong with that.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. By the way, the comedian was
Yeah,
Jerry Lewis.
Thanks,
Jerry
bro.
Lewis,
You
that
Jerry
was his
too.
name.
Lewis.
Jerry Lewis. Like, bro, if you study
Yeah,
his story and watch his biography and everything, like, bro, he put in the work. Like, comedy,
yeah,
it's on his shoulders, Giants like him as well. But no,
yeah.
once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Before we end, please shout out your social media where people could watch you and follow you and hit you up for anything coming up.
Yeah. Um, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I'm glad this worked out, and you guys seem like real cool, genuine guys. And if there's anything else I can do for you guys, just hit me up. Hope to catch you guys at one of my shows or whatever, and just link me. We're good. But to catch me at Keith Pedro, KeithPedro. Very simple, real name, no gimmicks. All my handles at Keith Pedro, pretty much. Uh, or you can go keithpedro.com, check out my shows, check out my merch, uh, all that stuff. I'm on Roast Battles Canada on Crave TV. We got season 3 about to drop soon. So that's gonna be my 3rd season on that show. And yeah, man, I post all my shows. If you're in the GTA, I'll be headlining a few yucks around the area, and hit me up. And then if you're in California, I'll be there in March. So that's what's up.
You guys thought we were done? I don't think so. We still gotta wrap it up. Please follow me at Kusa300. Follow my co-host Muhammad at Muhammad.global. Make sure to follow our page at Instagram. Also, make sure to subscribe to all our platforms. We drop every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Thank you. We'll see you next week.